have a stack of 20 books here that I'm going to be unhauling. I didn't do this all at once, hence the fact that I'm not going through my entire bookshelf and picking them out and showing you guys that way. I have been accumulating all of these within the past few months, maybe even 6 months, and the fact that I've had these books just sitting in my closet, I have been procrastinating on donating them, but it ended up actually working out in my favor. The first time that I procrastinated and it's actually worked out in my favor, and if I would have been donating them as I was getting rid of them, then this video wouldn't be here. I forgot I didn't turn on my pumpkin. I do want to say, after doing this big book unhaul throughout the last few months, I am going to be way more intentional with my buying, because I don't want to make this a regular thing where I am buying books and I end up getting rid of them because I end up changing my opinion on them. A lot of these books are books that I did try to read and I just didn't like, but there is some that I ended up buying without being too thoughtful on it. The very first book that I'm going to be unhauling is Magnolia Parks by Jessa Hastings. I ended up buying this book when they came out with the new covers. I was convinced that I wasn't going to be able to get my hands on the original covers, like the UK editions. I have the entire series on my shelf in the OG covers. It's not that I absolutely hate the cover, it's that I don't need 2 copies of a book that I haven't read yet. And so this is kind of like a pass in my mind because I didn't think that I was going to be able to get the OG covers. So luckily I didn't end up buying the entire series, and I'll just be unhauling this one. The next book is Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. This is actually a funny story on how I have this in my hands. I was at the store with one of my friends and we ended up seeing this paperback at Target, and one of our other mutual friends is obsessed with Fourth Wing, so we're like, let's buy her the paperback because they came out with the stenciled edges and let's gift it to her. When I go and gift it to her, she's like, oh, I actually already have the paperback. So I ended up just keeping it. But then after a year went by, I read Fourth Wing. I wasn't as obsessed as I hoped I was going to be. So I feel like it's unnecessary for me to have 2 copies if I wasn't the biggest fan of the books already. I will be keeping my hardcovers of the Empyrean series, but I don't think it's necessary to have the paperback considering that I'm not like obsessed with Fourth Wing. The next one is The Time Traveler's Wife. I ended up getting this book in a mini library, and it was actually my boyfriend that told me to pick it up and read it. 2 years went by, I never have read it. I don't seem too interested. I do love the idea of time travel, but I feel like there's other books that I'd rather spend my time with, and sorry, Jaden. It feels weird calling him Jaden. I don't call him by his first name. Sorry, but it also feels weird to say babe on the internet. Sorry, Jaden, but I'm getting rid of this one. Then we have Eleanor Oliphant is Completely Fine. This is by Gail Honeyman. This is one of the books that I did read, but I just couldn't get into it. I must have gotten 20-ish% way through the book, and I told myself in 2025, a goal of mine would be that if I'm not interested in the book 25% way through the book, for one, a reading slump can get activated, but for two, there's no reason to read a book if you're not interested in reading it. I gave it a shot, and that's what's important, and it just didn't work for me, and that is okay. Then we have 2 books that I got from blind dates with the book. Unfortunately, I was quite disappointed when I opened up these 2 books in the blind date with the books. I do judge books by their cover, and I know it is a literal lesson that you are not supposed to do that, but I'm going to be doing it here. This book just does not excite me whatsoever, and time is precious. You should not be spending your time reading a book that you're not interested in. That is a lesson of this video. And also, I did try to read The Notebook. I love the movie so much. That movie will make me cry every single time. So I was very excited to read this book, but literally 2 chapters in, I was like, this is completely different than how the movie is told. And I love the movie so much that I feel just satisfied with that. I don't feel like reading the book, especially because it is different from the movie. We got another book here that I tried to read and I just didn't really connect with, is the main word that I'm trying to think. This is The 100 Years of Lenny and Margaret by Mary Ann Cornan. I didn't feel like picking up the book. And that is a big thing that I listen to while I'm reading books, because if I'm not having that urge to pick up the book, then a reading slump is right around the corner, and I don't ever want to be in a reading slump. It's always the worst. So I start to pick up on the feeling of a day having gone by and I'm not wanting to read, and I'm like, haha, this is the culprit. Also with this book, I was a little more farther into the story. I think maybe 35% way through the book, and I felt like having gone that far in, I felt like there wasn't really anything that was going to change. Now the entire time while I'm unhauling these books, it's the what if, but I can't listen to that what if and like that hoarding mentality. You just got to get rid of the book, so we're doing that. Then we got This Is Not Fame by Doug Stanhope. I read his first book. It's a memoir. That book literally made me tear up. I loved that book. It's Digging Up Mother, but I don't feel like reading his second book. I literally have had this book since 2020 because I remember my stepdad was getting rid of it during quarantine, and the synopsis intrigued me enough to hold on to it, but it's been 5 years and I haven't read it, so it's time to just give it to a new home. Then to a huge unhaul here. I have the entire Off-Campus series. We have The Deal, The Mistake, The Score, The Goal, and The Legacy. I read the first 3. The first one, The Goal, was a great time. The Mistake, it was like okay, and then The Score, I really didn't like it. It just felt boring, and I've had people tell me to continue on with the series, but I cannot get myself to do it. I have no interest in reading The Goal and reading The Legacy. This is where it's tricky when making these book unhauls, because I want to be very cautious that I'm not being rude or disrespectful to these authors. And I think you can say you didn't like a book without being rude, but it's like I'm walking on eggshells because I don't want to be rude. I love young adult books. I love reading about characters who are 13, 16 years old when they're in high school, but this writing in particular felt too immature for my taste. And it's funny because YA is one of my favorite genres ever, and The Summer That I Turned Pretty is one of my favorite series ever, and people can argue that that book or in that series is immature. The characters are immature. It's poor writing, but I love Jenny Han and I love To All the Boys I Loved Before, and it's just kind of hard to say that when I love YA books. I didn't have any drive to continue on with the series. The next book is Mr. Fixer-Upper by Lucy Score. To be honest, I bought this book because I heard that this is the first book in the little series or little duology. The second book and the one that I got first was Mr. Fixer-Upper. It is a Christmas book, and because this is the first book in the series, I felt like I needed to read this book first. Now that it's been some time, I'm like, I don't think I need to do that anymore, and it's unfortunate because I just wasted money on this book. I also read, this is not what I shouldn't do this either because it'll just like convince me, but I read reviews on Goodreads and people were saying that the main character, was mean and annoying, and I hate that. Like, I don't like the bullyingness trope or whatever it is. Also, it's my fault because it does say this in the synopsis. It says, Mr. Sex in a tool belt has made it his mission in life to get a rise out of her. He seems so annoying. Mr. Sex in a tool belt? What? That doesn't make me want to read it. You know what, I should have started this off by saying, I'm getting rid of this book because Mr. Sex in a tool belt. And just left it at that. Stop, that's so cringe. The next book I'm going to be unhauling is The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. I don't need this edition considering that I have the special edition and I haven't read it yet. I made the mistake with buying multiple copies of a book that I haven't read yet. I don't want to do that anymore. The next book is As Long as the Lemon Trees Grow by Zulfa Katau. This is a book that makes me sad because I was really excited to read this book. It sounded like a heartbreaking, beautiful story, but when I started reading it, it just didn't really flow with me, unfortunately. And I did have it on my mind that I was gonna soft DNF it, but a few months have gone by and I haven't been wanting to pick it up, so we're gonna give it a better home. Now to the very last series. It's such a shame. It's like embarrassing that I'm getting rid of an entire series all because of impulse buying. This series right here is like the one that I'm embarrassed to talk about because I truly just let my impulse take over and I don't want to do that again. And that series is the If series, I believe. I bought these books because the sprayed edges caught my eye. I picked up the first book. It's If We Ever Meet Again. The MMC was extremely cocky and annoying, and it honestly really threw me off, and it was like a little bit of like offending things, like the mindset that he had. I really didn't like it. It threw me off and I immediately stopped reading it. And the second book, I want to say, is a second chance of the main characters in this one. So I was like, he immediately gave me the ick. I don't want to continue on with the series. And so I ended up having these two left, and I was really on the fence with just keeping them. But I felt like since I'm getting rid of the first two, it just feels wrong to then jump into the third book. And maybe I could still do that, but to be honest, I just really did not like the way that this book started off. I'm going to learn a lesson here. I'm not going to buy the entire series unless I am 1000% sure that I'm going to love it. And even then, this is going to be in the back of my head, so I'm going to be aware not to do that again. Those are all of the books that I'm going to be unhauling. I feel like I definitely learned a lesson here to be more intentional with my book buying, and that is a huge lesson, honestly, that I learned in 2025. But anyways, I had fun just sitting down and talking about books with you guys. I hope you enjoyed listening to me yap about these books. That's going to be it for today's video. Thank you so very much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye bye.